Okay, suppose I'm using Excel now to track a particular Apple Store sales of iPhones and iPads. We won't break it down by different models of iPhones, but so we have January through December, and let's say we call this sales 2015. And we have our iPhones, we have our iPads. Now, let's say we want to reformat this a little bit so that sales 2015 is centered above the iPhones and iPad cells here. So what we can do is we can select these two cells. We go to Format, Cells, and in this case we want to change the alignment. And so what we're going to do is we're going to change it so that it actually is centered across the selection. So now what that means is that it's going to put it in the center of columns B and C. And maybe what we'll do is we'll make these centered. So we'll go to Format, Cells, again, Alignment, and we'll say these we want to be centered. Okay. So what we want to do now is we want to create a graph that looks at what's happening over time for these sales. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select these cells like this. That's what we want to include in our graph. In this case, let's say we were on the Home tab up here. We click on Charts, and we say, well, we want to create a line graph. And so we're going to click here, and we're just going to click on we want a 2D line graph. And Excel just automatically creates it, puts it in the workbook, and we can expand this. So what Excel did was it automatically put January through December along the x-axis. It automatically scaled the y-axis to go up to 900 because the highest value we had in here was 855. It also created two separate graphs, one for the iPhones, one for the iPads. And it gave us a little legend over here so that we knew which was which. So in this case, what we can see is that, let's say for iPads, sales were declining, and then in September they introduced a new model, so sales spiked, then it went down a little bit, and then it spiked again in December at Christmas. Well, the same thing seemed to happen with the iPhone, spiked a little bit in September, and then declined, and then jumped in December again at Christmas time. So now we have a graphical representation of our data, which makes it a lot easier. So let's add one more thing here. So let's actually get rid of this graph for now. So we're just going to click in it, hit delete, and the graph is gone. And let's say we also know our iPhone average cost, and we also know the same thing for iPad, and we want to do a calculation to figure out how much we earned from both of these. So let's say that the average iPhone cost $500. So we'll just type in the 500. We will say we want this to appear in all of these rows, so we'll just drag it down. And let's say for the iPad it was $725 was the average price. Again, we're going to drag this down here. And then what we want to do is we want to create a formula that says, well, if we sold 330 iPhones, each one was $500, and we sold 133 iPads, and each one was $725, how much did we earn from all that? We'll call that our revenue. And so here's what we can do. We're going to click into here, and so here's the way our formula will work. We're going to have, I can either type in, so I want the equal, and I can type, I want B3 times D3 plus C3 times E3. And so what Excel did was it multiplied 330 iPhones by $500 a piece and 133 iPads times $725 a piece and came up with this figure here. And we want Excel to do the same thing all the way down. And so now we have our revenues, but we don't like the way it looks because we can't really see what those numbers are so easily. And in fact, 3 of these columns, what we want is we want the format in cells. We want to change the number format. We want them to be currency. Now, we don't have to worry about cents in this case. That'll just kind of muck it up. But what we do want is the currency symbol of dollars. And so when we click OK, now we have a much easier to read and clear situation where we have dollar signs, and then we have also the commas put in so we can see this more clearly. Now, the other thing we want is in this case, we want actually to figure out a total. So what we'll do is we will select all of these cells here, and we just click the sum sign here, and it puts in the formula, and we'll take a look at what that formula is, equals sum, and then in parentheses, B through colon B14. So I could have typed in equals B3 plus B4 plus B5, etc., but it's easier to tell Excel that you want to create a sum, and you give it a range of cells that you want it to sum. Well, then we can copy this formula over, and Excel will do the same thing, but we want to format these cells just like we did before. So we'll go to Format, Cells, and again, we'll go to Currency, no cents. So now Excel has created a total column as well, and maybe when we click here, we want to bold it. So we'll go to Home, and so we could have gone to Format Cells, but we could also just click right here, and it will format it for us. So in this case, it bolded it. Okay, so now let's take a look at our graph, but now we want to look at not just the sales, but we want to look at total revenue and see how that changed over the course of the year. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select our cells, and we're going to select these. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go over, we're going to hit Command, click, and we're going to select these cells as well. We're going to go to Charts, and we're going to insert a line graph again, same as before. And now what Excel has done is it recognizes again that we want January through December down along the bottom here, and it recognizes that this is revenue because we included the column heading when we selected the cells. And now we have a graph showing revenue, again, with a spike in September when new models were introduced, followed by a decline, followed by a big spike in December when we had the Christmas and seasonal holidays.